Hi, and welcome to Best in Tesla. So we are hearing a lot of bad news from Tesla in the mainstream media, down 40%, demand collapsing. But if we filter out all the noise and focus on the numbers and the facts, you will see just how ridiculous those doom's predictions are. Tesla has planned this perfectly. When we look at the numbers, they are actually very, very impressive, and Tesla being down is completely overblown by the mainstream media, as I will show you in this video, and show that Tesla does not have just one ace up their sleeves, but many, and has just confirmed what I have been talking about before, that they are introducing affordable luxury, but as Tesla calls it, low-cost premium transport. Things are about to get real nutty. So let's take it all out and let's dive right in. So we are hearing a lot of doom and gloom about Tesla sales. But if we filter out the noise and just focus on the facts and the numbers, how does the state of Tesla actually look? Because we do hear a drop about 40% and 11% and so on. But what does that actually mean in terms of the numbers? Because we are seeing the haters don't understand why we bulls are suddenly comparing February numbers to January numbers. That is not how you look at these kinds of numbers. It is year over year. Yes, exactly. I completely agree. But what we are trying to find out by looking month over month suddenly is not how Tesla is doing compared to last year. We all know they are down compared to last year. And everyone that has been following along and has two functional brain cells and not consumed by all their hate toward Tesla and Elon knew this would happen. I even said it last year that because of the transition to the new Model Y, Q1 would be down. So this comes as no surprise whatsoever. It does for the mainstream media and the haters, of course, but not for us that are actually following the story closely and knows what is going on. So we don't need to compare year over year to see if Tesla is up or down. We already knew they were going to be down. So the only thing we get out of comparing year over year is just how much Q1 is going to be down. But the reason why we are looking at month over month suddenly is because we want to see how the transition and the ramp of the Model Y is going. Because we know they shut down their factories for a given number of days in January to make the shift. But we should be able to see, especially in the upcoming March numbers, the rise of Tesla's sales and ramp of production again. And that is why it's very interesting to see the numbers we are getting out of China, because we do get weekly insurance numbers from Chinese Passenger Car Association. So we have a rough idea of what the numbers are. And there we can see that Tesla sales has been rising fast. And last week, as I showed in my Overflow News show yesterday, Tesla sold 17,400 cars in China. So that shows us that Tesla is not only back to normal levels, but actually seems to be doing better than ever, as over 17,000 units sold in a week is not something Tesla does all the time in China. Last year, they had 9 weeks where their sales were over 17,000 units, and none of them were in Q1. So 17,400 units is a very high number from Tesla and shows us that Tesla is done with the transition in China and the sales are back to normal to high levels. So here, even week over week is telling us something. And comparing those weeks' numbers year over year does also tell us something, like that Tesla is back to normal levels. The shift to the new Model Y is basically over in China. So that's very good news. And I also talked about this last year, as I said the Model Y would probably come out in Q1 in 2025, but probably in the early part of Q1 because this is the smallest quarter of the year, and January and February are the smallest month of the quarter and usually the smallest month of the entire year, of course. So that would make the shift least painful for Tesla. But that they would shift all 4 factories at once was a surprise to me. But it totally makes sense, because Tesla wants this transition to be over as fast as possible in the least effective quarter of the year. And that is what they're doing. So even though the percentage year over year could sound alarming when mainstream media is putting out the numbers like Europe is down 40%, but doesn't give any explanation to why, other than Elon's politics, it sounds really bad. But we also have to remember, it is down 40% in the smallest quarter, in the smallest month of the quarter, and in the smallest of Tesla's 3 big markets, the US, Europe, and China. So what does 40% down in Europe actually mean? Well, in the first 2 months of the year, as you can see on this great chart Electric Nick has made with data from the ACEA, we can see that Tesla has sold about 26,000 units in the first 2 months of 2025, compared to 46,000 units in 2024. So Tesla is down about 20,000 units in Europe in the first 2 months. 20,000 units. That is the doom and gloom story you're hearing about. 20,000 units. That is less than 6% of Tesla's annual sales in Europe. That's it. Remember, last year, Tesla was actually down 20,000 units in China by week 16. But not only did Tesla catch up to the last year's numbers, but it sold about 50,000 units more. So they gained about 70,000 units in the last 36 months of the year. So being down only 20,000 units when they had to shut down their factory in Germany that is producing the Model Y that stands for 65% of Tesla sales in Europe. And there is a huge Osborne effect from the 10th of January when they revealed the new Model Y to the 26th of February when they started deliveries. That is 45 days of Osborne effect, and they are only down about 20,000 units. In my book, that is quite good. Also because Tesla doesn't seem to prioritize exporting Tesla Model 3s from China to Europe, but just selling them locally to not have to send them on a boat to Europe, and that takes like 2 months to get them to customers. As we can see, Tesla's Model 3 sales in China in the first 2 months were up 52%. So that could also explain why Tesla sales are down this much in Europe, as we get our Tesla Model 3 all the way from China, and Tesla has not prioritized that here in the first 2 months. But that is the doom and gloom people are screaming about, and not understanding that the reason why we are looking at a very short time frame all of a sudden is because we need to see if the numbers are starting to go back up, as we have been predicting, or else Tesla will have a demand problem. Because this also shows us that we have been right, that this is all because of the transition to the new Model Y, and we can see it's coming back to normal, as I showed in yesterday's news show. That yes, Tesla sales are growing again in Europe. They are up 70% month over month from January to February. So yes, we don't normally look at a month over month comparison, as that normally doesn't make any sense. But since this is not a normal situation, as Tesla is transitioning the world's best-selling cars that stands for 65% of their sales of their 1.8 million units to new production lines, and they're only down 20,000 units in Europe in those 2 months, and why we look at it month over month to see if they are growing again. And they are. So this is all very impressive if you ask me, but not as impressive as in the US. We don't have the official numbers, so we have to make an educated guess. But from what we know, in January 2025, S&P Global Mobility reported that new Tesla registrations in the US fell 11% year over year. So dropping approximately from 55,000 units in January 2024 to around 49,000 units in January 2025. And we have heard that Tesla also dropped about 10% in February. So that would mean about 50,000 down to 45,000. So all of that would mean that Tesla sales in the US are down less than 10,000 units in the first 2 months. which is much better than in Europe. But here Tesla also produced the Model 3 locally, so they are probably not missing that Model 3 sales as we do in Europe. But the US sales is almost double the size for Tesla as Europe is. Around 620,000 units sold in the US in 24 compared to 330,000 units in Europe. So as you can also see, Europe is the place where Tesla best can afford to be down 40% in the first 2 months, as Tesla China was about 650,000 units in sales last year. So it seems like Tesla is controlling this transition extremely well. Down 20,000 units in Europe, about 10,000 units in the US, and doesn't even seem to be down in China, which is just so amazing. But it might also be because Tesla has chosen to sell the Model 3 in the country to not be down in their biggest market and let Europe take that hit. So down 30,000 units in the first 2 months of the year with this huge refresh is simply just amazing work from the whole Tesla team. So this has just been planned so perfectly. That it is falling at the same time as we have this political tension in the US and everyone wants to blame it on that is of course unfortunate because the truth is being drowned in all the noise. But nonetheless, Tesla has planned this to perfection, transitioning all 4 factories at once in the smallest quarter of the year, in the smallest month of the year, and letting their smallest market take the biggest hit. So that they are only down 30,000 units just shows us how well this was planned. 30,000 units. It is 1.7% of Tesla's global annual sales. So Tesla is down 1.7%. But now the refreshed Model 3 that has seemed to be doing extremely well in China, and the refreshed Model Y that has been extremely high demand for with over 200,000 pre-orders in China, and the old model was the best-selling car of any kind 2 years straight, now have 10 months to scale beyond last year's numbers. And on top of that, Tesla is about to reveal 2 more affordable models within a few months. And that should create a much bigger addressable market for Tesla. And yes, they need to ramp that up, but we have just seen how fast and effective Tesla has become of exactly that. So for the last 6 months of the year, Tesla will suddenly enter a completely new market that they have never had access to before. So instead of only making cars to about 5% of the addressable market, they will suddenly have access to about 30 to 40% of the market depending on the price of the 2 more affordable models. And in China, the Model 3 is already starting at $32,000. So Tesla is going to come into the very affordable market in China where we see huge demand for these small, cheap electric cars. But as I've talked about before, Tesla's more affordable models will not be a crappy little EV like BYD Seagull, because we have to remember that now Tesla has full self-driving supervised in China. And sure, there's a lot of competition in China on that front, as I have also shown in other videos, but that is not in the affordable market. That is in the luxury vehicles like the Avatar 1.1 with Huawei's ADS system that cost about $75,000. Tesla will bring something completely new to the market, as I have said before, affordable luxury. And it seems like Tesla agrees, as they have just written on X, doubling down on their June release of the unsupervised full self-driving in Austin in June, as they wrote, "The future is autonomous, and it starts in Austin this June." Very nice getting a double down on that one. But thanks to Austin City and Texas DOT for hosting and supporting our effort to unlock safe and low-cost premium point-to-point electric transport. Yes, something we have never seen before. Premium, low cost. 2 words that should not be in the same sentence. So what do you think an affordable EV with luxury features like full self-driving supervised will do in a place like China? Or anywhere else for that matter? Yes, exactly. The demand will be off the charts. And Tesla has probably 6 months to spit out these vehicles and easily make up for the 1.7% they are down on an annual basis. And the demand will also increase in Europe when Tesla get approval for their full self-driving supervised here as well. And again, a small compact EV in Europe with full self-driving technology for an affordable price is going to sell like hotcakes. Not so good for the competition like Volkswagen that have their little compact EV, the ID.3, with no cool technology whatsoever. It doesn't even have a frunk. But Tesla is truly bringing something completely new to the market very soon that no one else will be able to compete with. Not even the Chinese, because as I said, yes, they have a very capable full self-driving system, but they're too expensive compared to the Tesla system that they have included in every car they sell, no matter if the customer wants it or not. But that is how affordable their full self-driving system is. And Ford is coming out with their more affordable EV in a couple of years. But as Jim Farley has already confirmed, it will not even have level 3 systems in it. Because it's not possible in an affordable EV. Well, not in an affordable EV from legacy automakers. Not even BYD is going to have something like what Tesla will offer here. Their best autonomous system they have revealed, and we have talked about before, is only for their premium brands. And the least capable system is for BYD's more affordable models. So Tesla will create a vehicle that will create a whole new market that has never existed before. Low cost, premium transport, as Tesla calls it, or affordable luxury, as I have called it. No matter what, it should easily make up for the 1.7% loss Tesla has seen in the annual sales in the first 2 months. That is doom and gloom in the mainstream media. When we have 2 more affordable models coming to market with full self-driving supervised in the US and China, and maybe even in Europe at that point, together with the refreshed Model Y and the Model 3 running at max production run rate, I have no doubt that Tesla will catch up to what they have lost so far. People are screaming doom and gloom because of 2 months and the transition to the new Model Y. And we still have 10 months to go. It has been a bumpy ride so far in 2025, but we knew it would be. But all the best is still to come. We have so much incoming over the next 10 months. So I hope you have fastened your seatbelt, because this ride is about to accelerate. And thank you for watching. And until next time, take care out there and be nice.